Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Before the dust even settles, before the conversation can even begin, before you can get a gauge on what the voters want, it's already done. Let me ask you guys, how many of you want Kevin McCarthy back as Speaker of the House, especially after the 2022 midterm results? I could pretty much guarantee you that probably 80, upwards of 90% even, don't want Kevin McCarthy anymore. You no longer support him as Republican leader of the House of Representatives, especially not that Republicans now have a majority, or are expected to win a majority, still need one more seat. That's the will of the voters. I mean, government is supposed to represent voters, right? And their interests and their needs. Well, of course, none of that matters, because the discussion's already over, and guess what? Kevin McCarthy has just been re-elected Republican leader of the House, near unanimously. You don't matter, peasant. The voters schmoters. The GOP establishment calls the shots, makes the decision, and you gotta do as they say and follow without having a choice in the matter. That is essentially what the GOP establishment is telling you right now, that you don't matter. Your vote doesn't matter, your voice doesn't matter, and so the neocon establishment coup continues. And here we go, yet again, another slap in the face to the majority of Republican voters. Let's get into it, folks. We got so much to talk about here. So without further ado, let's roll the tape. All right, so let's have the conversation is I think what most people were thinking. Benny Johnson just released this tweet a couple hours ago. Now is time to boot failed GOP leaders, not bicker about Donald Trump versus DeSantis. Linking to a Federalist piece, set aside 2024, it's time for a change in GOP leadership. The Conservative Brief this morning also releasing this piece, Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy to face challenges for leadership. Well, that didn't last very long. Breaking, just in, before you're even allowed to have a conversation, before the dust settles, they just rammed the vote through. Kevin McCarthy elected the Republican nominee for Speaker of House on a 188-31 vote by the GOP conference. Neocon, never Trump, anti-Trump Kevin McCarthy, Frank Luntz's best friend and literal roommate Kevin McCarthy, somehow gets elected with a massive supermajority right after a disappointing 2022 midterm. I mean, the GOP dropped the ball on this one significantly. They screwed up. In most countries and in most businesses in the business world, when you screw up this bad, you should resign. You should step down and let somebody else take the reins. But of course, that's not how it works in American politics now, is it? You screw up and then you give yourself a promotion, or you keep the job that you continue to fail at. 2 election failures, and it's still the same faces. And actually, it's not just Kevin McCarthy, because he's taking NRCC Chief Tom Emmer with him. News: NRCC Chief Tom Emmer wins the whip roll, beating out Representatives Ferguson and Banks for the number 3 role. Sources in room tell me. Count: Tom Emmer's got 115 votes, Jim Banks got 106. For those of you guys who are unaware, the chief of the NRCC is largely in charge of Republican campaigning in major election cycles. Well, that guy just got a promotion. As Red Eagle Politics puts it, loses the GOP a dozen of seats, gets rewarded with a big promotion. Laughing my behind off, I can't even. And so, of course, now what's next? Again, there's no time to have a discussion. Mitch McConnell's gonna try to rush himself through, rush the vote. We know the facts, which just continue to get worse for Mitch McConnell. A new poll shows record low 7% of voters view Mitch McConnell favorably. 7 out of every 100 voters. And what's probably gonna happen is that Mitch McConnell's going to win the leadership race. Apparently he's against Steve Scalise this time round, and it's probably not even going to be close. You know why? Because Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell are part of the uniparty, the deep state. Dirty Mitch was on the take. Mitch McConnell receives $2.5 million from crypto laundromat FTX for his Senate leadership fund. Oh, well, that's real interesting now, isn't it? They're all connected. I mean, from what we can gather, there's no such thing as Democrat-Republican. There's Democrat-Republican, and then there's uniparty. I mean, Turtle Mitch basically proved that over the last 2 election cycles by essentially telling us with his actions that he would rather see Democrats win than Trump-style America First candidates get elected. Actually, here's a great example of the uniparty. Once again from the Gateway Pundit, uniparty in action. Chuck Schumer to meet with Mitch McConnell to push for, quote, ditching MAGA Republicans.
I am going to say to the Republicans in the Senate, who are not the MAGA Republicans, stop letting them lead your party. Work with us to get things done. And I intend to sit down with Mitch McConnell and express that. And I think
you've been saying that. You've been asking for it. Go on.
Just quickly, when are you're sitting down with Mitch McConnell this week?
No, I intend, I've said this yesterday and the day before too, I intend to sit down with him and say, how can we should be working together. You're not going to get the extremists in your party to work with anybody, but the rest of us can work together and get them some real things done for the American people.
You know, those MAGA Republicans, the majority of the Republican Party? Well, your Senate leader is now working with Democrats to make sure that your voice isn't heard, to slowly phase you out of politics entirely. There's no choice in Washington, there's only the illusion of choice. And that is especially true when it comes to these leadership races and these roles in government. Who's really calling the shots? Who's really controlling the party? There is no choice. You get what you get, and you will be happy. I find it all so frustrating. It's all part of their orchestrated plan. You know, that's what's so frustrating with this whole Donald Trump versus Ron DeSantis debate. It's become so venomous, so toxic. I mean, neocon establishment type Republicans are cheering on the victory of Katie Hobbs in Arizona. They're cheering, and a good chunk of those style voters probably didn't show up to vote on election day or probably voted for Katie Hobbs. I mean, it's straight up sabotage. It's causing a rift, and now as they go after Donald Trump, it's getting worse. I can't stand this discussion of Trump or Ron DeSantis, mainly because, frankly, I like them both equally. But you know, it's not like I don't like what's going on right now between these two candidates or these two Republican factions, because I dislike primaries or democracies. I mean, that's the core of elections, the primary season. Decide your leader. Pick your fighter. Is it going to be Trump or is it going to be DeSantis? Eventually, people are going to have to make that decision. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. If the majority of Republican voters choose to go with Ron DeSantis, then so be it. But if the GOP establishment is going to, quote, dump Trump and force Ron DeSantis, then they can go screw themselves. And it seems like that's the direction. It seems like that's the goal. It's the illusion of choice. But really, the GOP establishment from behind the scenes is trying to pull the strings. And they're going to do everything in their power to destroy Donald Trump. And if anything, that is more reason why Donald Trump is needed more than ever before. The swamp creatures are trying desperately to crawl back and regain the power that they lost. Crawling out of that dirty, muck-ridden swamp, trying to wrap their filthy hands around the power of the party that they used to control. We can see exactly what they're doing because they're doing it right in front of you. And boy, oh boy, do I think it's going to get real ugly. Clearly, Donald Trump isn't going to run away. He's going to try to take them head on. Once again, it seems as though the GOP would rather sabotage, self-sabotage, put their own interests ahead of the voters first, rather than just take a step back and let the voters decide. Let the voters decide who they want leading their party. Let the voters influence who's leading the House and leading the Senate. Let the voters decide who's going to end up being the presidential nominee, not Mitch McConnell, because we've seen their track record over the last little while, and it's been an absolute unmitigated disaster. From 2017 obstructing their own president when they had a massive majority in the House and in the Senate, to the 2022 midterm disappointment, and here they are patting themselves on the back, giving themselves leadership positions, giving their cronies promotions. The whole thing is truly, utterly disgraceful. That's what I got for you guys though. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna get out of here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.